Welcome to the very first episode of Demystifying D&D, the show that makes understanding Dungeons & Dragons easier than ever and prepares any newcomer for their first adventure. Now, before we begin, this is all going to seem like a lot of information at first, and it might be very overwhelming, but each topic that I discuss will be getting its own video that further explains everything in layman's terms so that everyone can get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. If you've ever been interested in trying D&D but have no one to teach it to you, please stick with this channel because it was made for you. Now, to start off, I'm going to answer the age-old question. What is D&D? Simply put, D&D is a role-playing game. It's a game that incorporates improv acting, creativity, and storytelling in its rules. A D&D group is best between 3 to 6 players. One person in the group is known as the Dungeon Master. This is typically the person that knows the game the best or has the most creative ideas in terms of telling the story. Think of him as not only the writer of the adventure, but the director of a movie or play. The other people in the group play as their own characters that they create. Think of them like actors. The Dungeon Master creates a scenario that the players react to, and their choices affect what happens in the rest of the game. For example, a Dungeon Master might say, "You're all sitting around in a tavern on a dark and stormy night when suddenly the door bursts open, and in walks a man wearing dark robes. He walks with a limp over to the bartender and grunts some orders to him. After grabbing a tray of drinks, he walks over to your group and says, 'I was sent here by the king with specific instructions to give you this,' and he hands you a treasure map. What do you do?" From there, it is up to the players to decide what course of action they want to take. Do they want to fight him? Does the rogue want to attempt to steal something from him? Or will they listen to what he has to say and go on the quest to find the hidden treasure? This is what makes the game of D&D so unique. A video game might seem open world, in that you have unlimited options, but in a tabletop role-playing game, you can actually do anything you want to, and you aren't limited to whatever the programmers have predetermined. So what are the rules? Well, the first rule of D&D is that there are no rules. The rules presented are simply guidelines, but the guidelines are easy enough for anyone to understand. Now, I know what you're saying. If there are only guidelines, then why are the rulebooks so thick, and why are there so many of them? Well, that's because each book offers something new. New races, new classes, new weapons, new spells, etc. to the existing framework of the game. There are 3 core rulebooks that make up the framework of Dungeons & Dragons, and they have had the same name since the first edition of the game: the Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual. The Player's Handbook is the only book that the player truly needs, as it teaches you how to create a character, pick your armor, weapons, and other adventuring equipment, and a comprehensive spell list if you're playing a character that uses magic. The Monster Manual is a book for Dungeon Masters only, as it lists many creatures that the player characters will meet and fight through their course of adventure. This could be an orc army stationed in the outskirts of the kingdom, plotting their attack against the king's army, or it could be the devious goblins who hide in the tunnels beneath the city, accumulating quite the collection of gems and money that slip through the cracks from the city folk above. And lastly, we have the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is another book for Dungeon Masters only. This book in its current incarnation is not an absolute necessity to playing D&D, but is definitely a helpful aid for the people that need extra inspiration for creating adventures. It is chock full of idea generators for adventures, details for creating a living and breathing world. Also included are ways to make an interesting villain for the campaign. While it serves as a fantastic idea generator, it is also a very good how-to guide on how to be a better dungeon master, as several of the chapters discuss what to do with uncooperative players and how to bring people out of their shells while playing. The last thing that your group is going to need is at least one set of dice, although each member should eventually get their own set. This is an aspect of the hobby that is very fun. I own more sets of dice than I could ever hope to use, but I do have my favorites, ranging from different colors to different sizes. The dice set, which can be picked up at most hobby shops or comic book stores, will have the following dice. So these dice are called polyhedral dice, and they range from the 4-sided, which is the smallest, to the 20-sided, which is the largest. So this is the 4-sided, and the way that you read the 4-sided is by reading the number, whichever one is standing up straight. So for example, the green one, if you roll that, then you got number 4. The yellow one in the front, if you roll it, it's 2. When I was a kid, I used to think that you had to add all of them up, but that's not what you do at all. So whichever number is facing the proper way, that's the number that you read. Then you've got the 6-sided die, and this one is the one that's used in things like Yahtzee, Monopoly. This is the cube die. Then you got the 8-sided, the 10-sided. Now you're going to have 2 of these. One of them is going to be labeled from 0 to 9, the 0 meaning 10, and the other one is going to be from 00 to 90. Now, the point of this is for when you're trying to roll what's called percentile, ranging from a number of 1 to 100. You roll the one that has the tens column, and then you roll the one that has the single digits, and then you add them together. So, for example, if you roll, let's just say it's this 90, and then you roll something like 5 on your other one, then that becomes 95. It's very simple. And then you got your 12-sided. And then finally, you got your 20-sided die. In all role-playing games, the dice are not referred to as a 20-sided die, for example, but the much easier abbreviation is used, D20. The D stands for die, and the number is how many sides it has. When your dungeon master calls for you to roll a D8, you roll an 8-sided die, or a D12, a 12-sided die, so on and so forth. Each die is used in D&D for a different reason. The one that you're always going to use in the game is a D20. This is the most important die in D&D. Most of the other dice are used for only weapon damage, the smaller dice being used for smaller weapons and the larger dice being used for larger weapons. A dagger, for example, uses a D4 to cause damage, while a great axe uses a D12 to cause damage. If you found this video helpful at all, please like and subscribe and share to your non-D&D playing friends so that you can get a group together and join in on the awesomeness that is Dungeons & Dragons. Stay tuned for more upcoming videos that will detail everything from making a character to how to be a good dungeon master. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.